Hey guys, it's Gameface here and welcome back to a little bit of a different video. Today I'm going to be going through my England 23-man squad that I'd take. I bet you guys have been wanting this, haven't you? No? Okay, well I'm going to tell you my 20-man squad anyway. So here we go, without further ado, let's crack on with this video. Before we do though, if we could try and hit 50 likes, then I'd really appreciate it. Also please go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already as well, and that'd be absolutely fantastic too. So with the World Cup just around the corner now, I thought I'd go through and tell you guys my opinion on who should go to the World Cup, what the 23-man squad should be. The official 23-man squad gets announced on Wednesday, but this is a squad that I'd go for. It's a little bit controversial in places. Let's crack on with it. Let's take a look at the players I'd take, starting off with the goalkeepers. First of all, I'd take Pope. I think he's done really, really well for Burnley this season, done absolutely fantastically. Obviously, Tom Heaton, I think, has had an injury, then he came back and hasn't really got back into the first team at Burnley, but Pope's been really good for Burnley, as have Burnley in general, been fantastic this season. I'd definitely take him. As well as Pope, I'd obviously take Jack Butland, and I'd also take Pickford as well. So clearly, I've dropped Joe Hart, I've left him back at home. I'm not going to be taking him. I don't think you can. I don't think you can take Joe Hart. He's not been consistent enough himself. The team he's been in hasn't been consistent enough this season, and I just think overall, unfortunately, as much as I like Joe Hart, I don't think it's right to take him. I think we should be basing it on form, and I think you have to disregard as much England experience as he has. I think we've got to go on form at this moment in time. Yes, he used to be England's #1. He's not anymore, and so I wouldn't take him. Personally, out of those three, I'd end up starting. For me, I'd just about go Pickford, but I mean, Jack Butland's also a very good option as well. I appreciate Jack Butland just being in a team that's got relegated as well, but I think his individual performances haven't been as bad as Joe Hart's have been this season. So I'd take him, and I think those three are our goalkeepers that we should take. Now onto the defenders, and as you can see, I've named 3 right backs in this. Now this is because I think Kyle Walker should be playing as a right-sided centre-back as part of the back 5. I think a back 5 could really work against some of the teams. I think it's certainly something we should think about, but my 3 players I'm going to have to begin with in defence would be Kieran Trippier, Kyle Walker and Trent Alexander-Arnold. Those 3 guys, obviously not all starting in the same team, but those would be 3 of the 9 defenders which I'd end up taking to the World Cup. So I'd take 9 defenders, especially if you're going to play back 5, you've got to have plenty of options to change around as well. I'd probably end up starting Kieran Trippier if we're going to go 5 at the back, and then I'd have Kyle Walker as our right-hand side centre-back. It's arguable as whether you need a 3rd right-back or not, but it depends really where you're going to play Kyle Walker. For me, he goes as centre-back and a back 5. So I am going to take Trent Alexander-Arnold as well. Maybe a little bit controversial. Don't think he's yet to play for the England senior team, but I think certainly he's a good, young, talented player. Got himself into a Champions League final. It remains to be seen whether they're going to win the Champions League final or not, but he's had a fantastic season nevertheless. And for me, I wouldn't take Nathaniel Klein. I'd leave him back home. And the reason for that is because it's all based on form for me. You have to take players based on how they're performing for their clubs this season, and Trent Alexander-Arnold has done a better job with Klein obviously being injured, and he came into the team and overtook him for me. On to the next set of defenders that I'm going to go with. We've got Chris Smalling as the first one, and he has obviously been in a good back line with Man United. Plenty of clean sheets, not particularly consistent, but I still think he just about gets in. And to be honest, if we had better centre-backs, he'd probably be staying at home, but for me, he's one of our better centre-backs. We don't have that many that are decent, to be honest. We've also got Harry Maguire as well. For me, he has to go. Good, solid centre-back, can defend as well, and that's always helpful for a centre-back, and he's a little bit more robust, I think, than the other options we have in that position, so I'd certainly take him. John Stones would also go for me as well. Again, a little bit inconsistent. He has shown glimpses of what he can do. He plays out for the back, which I think is helpful if you're going to play far at the back, but for me, I'd certainly take him and hope that he's going to produce on the big stage. It's very difficult to know exactly what sort of centre-back lining we should go with. For me, I'd start with Kyle Walker in there if you're going to go back 5. I'd then also think about maybe starting John Stones and Chris Smalling, but it's very, very tricky. There are other options though, luckily for us. And one of those other options is Tarkowski. Now, I'd actually take him from Burnley. I think he's done really well for Burnley this season. Burnley in general have looked fantastic, so why not bring in some of their players? It makes sense. Particularly if you're going to bring in a couple of their players like Pope into the goalkeeper position. Okay, he won't necessarily start, but it's good to have them in the squad alongside Tarkowski as well. So that would be a really good little partnership to get going in the defensive line. And so I'd certainly take him based on form, on merit as well. I'd also look to take Danny Rose. I think he's probably our best left back. And a little bit of a surprise inclusion. A lot of people would have said Ryan Bertrand. Ryan Bertrand, I reckon, will go to the World Cup ahead of Aaron Cresswell. But I personally believe Aaron Cresswell should go to the World Cup ahead of of Ryan Bertrand. As much as I like Ryan Bertrand, Cresswell for me has had a better season. He's won more games, he's scored more goals, he's got more assists, 7 assists in the Premier League. He's actually in, I think, the top 20 assists, which I know is obviously quite a long list, but you don't see Bertrand in that list at all. 7 assists for Aaron Cresswell this season, a goal as well. Bertrand's not scored, I think he had 4 assists. So for me, if you're going in terms of chance creation and goals scored, you have to go Aaron Cresswell. He's also had a marginally better season than Ryan Bertrand has for his club. So I think for me, if you go Bertrand, then you're obviously going for the England experience, or a little bit more England experience. But if you're going on form, for me, Aaron Cresswell has to go ahead of him. Although I will also add that I don't think England will end up taking him. On to the midfielders, and again, maybe a little bit controversial, but I'm fine to do that. I'm going to go with the team that I'd take and the squad I'd take. First of all, Eric Dyer quite obviously has to be in the team. We still are thinking about that goal he scored against Germany, that bullet header, and I think it was a friendly game, so it didn't really mean that much. But he still does put in good performances from time to time. I'm still yet to decide what position he's best in, but he does give you a few different positions that you can play, and he's certainly, if you're going to put him in midfield, he's a guy that's going to hang back a bit. He also gives you the physicality in there as well, which I think we lack a little bit. So I'd certainly end up taking him. He's also got plenty of England experience now, despite still being very young. And then I'd also take Jordan Henderson as well, either alongside him or at least part of the squad anyway. He's captain of Liverpool, so he's got that leadership and that experience, and I think he's definitely vital in this England midfield. And as much as people do have a go at him, I still think he does put in a lot of good performances, and he can switch the ball very well and keep hold of possession very well as well. So I'd certainly take him. Then onto a bit more of a controversial one. Some people call me for Jonjo Shelvey to go, some people not really a fan. I'd personally take him. Wouldn't start him probably, but I'd have him in the squad just in case. I think we're actually struggling a little bit for English midfielders that are half decent, and certainly I think we need another centre mid in there. I'd certainly take Jonjo Shelvey, but I'd also take a few more as well. And as part of the other midfielders that I'd take, I'd also end up taking Jack Wilshere. A play that, again, people are not really too sure that he should go or shouldn't based on injuries and that sort of thing. But I think he has found his form again this season for Arsenal, albeit Arsenal haven't yet to find their consistency, or haven't found their consistency this season. I think Jack Wilshere has at times looked really, really good for Arsenal. So I'd take him. We know what he can do. He can score goals. He can drive the ball forward. He's a good passer of the ball as well. And so I'd certainly have him in the team. And I certainly hope that Gareth Southgate will end up having him on the plane as well going to the World Cup. I imagine he should be. I don't think there's going to be any surprises there. Next up, I'd take Dele Alli. Again, I think a pretty much a no-brainer for me. Has to go to the World Cup. He does score goals. He creates chances, particularly assists as well. I think he got 9 assists, or maybe 11 assists, something like that this season. He can create chances, especially if you're going to partner him up front with Harry Kane, then that could be a really interesting partnership. He can play as a striker. He can also play as a centre-attacking mid, which is probably where he's more comfortable. I don't actually know if he's going to be part of Gareth Southgate's starting 11, though. We've seen in the friendlies he doesn't necessarily start under Gareth, but he has put in some good performances, particularly towards the end of this season, and so for me, he has to be on the plane. No-brainer. Whether you start him or not, got to be in the squad. And next up, Lingard. We've got to take Jesse Lingard. Didn't think I'd ever be saying that, but he has to be on the plane to the World Cup. He has put in some great performances for Man United this season. He also seems to be a big game player. We need more of those sort of players in our team. Players to drive the ball forward, players that are going to try and do something on the big occasion. And as much as I don't really ever find myself saying this, I think he might be one of the players to do that. He has certainly produced in many finals for Man United, and he has put in a lot of good performances and helped them a lot as well this season. Got to be taken. Now onto the attackers. Again, a bit of a controversial one. We'll start with the ones that are less controversial though. Raheem Sterling, again, no-brainer, has to go to the World Cup, being fantastic for Man City. Okay, yes, he misses half the chances that he gets, but he does get in a lot of good positions and will take chances eventually. Does score a lot of goals, creates chances as well. For me, he has to be in the team and has to be in the plane as well. Next up, Marcus Rashford, another player that has to be on the plane for me. Yes, he hasn't played consistently for Man United this season. He does come into the team and he does go out of the team quite a lot for them. I'd probably end up I have him round the starting 11, depends who you come up against, but I'd certainly think about including him in the starting 11. We know he's got plenty of pace, we know he can get in good positions and finish chances. I just don't really think he's been given the game time. For whatever reason, I think Man United don't necessarily play to his strengths, and so I think maybe England could be better off for him. So we'll wait and see whether he starts, but it certainly will be on the plane for the World Cup. Now, bear with me on this one, okay? I would take Ryan Sessegnon. I think you have to take Ryan Sessegnon. He was nominated for 4 PFA awards this season. The first time a Champions Championship player, has been nominated for the PFA Young Player of the Year award. He has to go. He has to go for me. We need another winger. I wouldn't have him as a left back. I'd have him as a winger. Okay, it makes it a little bit difficult if you're going to play with no wingers and just going to go 2 strikers. Okay, if you're going to do that, then maybe we shouldn't take him. But if we are going to go play with maybe a 3 up front or something like that, I think you have to take him. Okay, he's only played 1 game for the England under-21s. He's never played for the senior team before. I'd still take him on form. He's scored and he's created loads of chances at Fulham this year, and I think he's ready for the step up, or at least ready to be in that squad. A little bit like a Theo Walcott was in 2006 under Sven-Göran Eriksson. Okay, he didn't play a part of that tournament, but I certainly think maybe Sessegnon could play a part off the bench. Why not? Let's give it a go. I think there's a space in the squad for him. I'd certainly end up taking him, although I was also considering taking Peter Crouch as well, but I've backtracked on that one since. And finally, the 2 main strikers for England just seem to be a little bit strange that we're only including 2 proper strikers. You could argue, I suppose, Rashford can play there and Dele Alli a little bit as well, but I've only really gone with 2 out-and-out strikers, and I think that's because we're lacking a little bit on the striker department in terms of informed strikers, and I never thought I'd say that, but there was a point a season or 2 ago where we must have had 4, 5 or 6 strikers that we could have easily included, the likes of Jermaine Defoe, Troy Deeney, Wayne Rooney, but Andy Carroll as well. But we don't really seem to have those players anymore. Rooney's obviously retired. The rest don't really seem in particularly great form, so I think we're struggling, but I think also we'll probably end up playing maybe just a 1 up front, so it won't be a massive issue, I don't think, for us. I'd obviously take Harry Kane and Jamie Vardy. Those 2 guys have been in great form this season. Jamie Vardy, one of the top goal scorers, I think in the top 5, something like that this season. Harry Kane also obviously in the 2nd place position. Again, scoring goals for Tottenham consistently, and that's what we have to have as England. We have to have consistency in the team. We have to have out-and-out goal scorers. No brainer for me. Harry Kane will be on the plane. Will he also be captain? I think he might be. So that's the England 23-man squad that I'd take. I'd go with 3 goalkeepers. Unfortunately, you have to have 3 goalkeepers, as much as I'd probably end up taking 2. Those are the rules, and so I will take 3. I'd also take 9 defenders as well. A lot of defenders to take, with 6 midfielders and then 5 attackers is what I'd go with. Bit of a strange squad. It is certainly defence heavy, but I think if you're going to play 5 at the back, which remains to be seen, but if you are going to do that, then I think you certainly have to take quite a few of them. But let me know your thoughts on my 23-man squad that I've put out today. Also, let me know your thoughts on who you take to the World Cup yourself, and leave in the comment section your 23-man squads. I'll be curious to see who you'd end up taking. Would you take Peter Crouch as a wild card? He certainly was in my thoughts. I nearly put him in there. He'd certainly be in about the squad for me. I think he's, despite his age, still got some sort of presence on the pitch. But anyway, that's everything for me, and thank you all so much for watching. If we could try to hit 50 likes on today's video, then I'd really appreciate it. Also, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already as well, and that'd be absolutely fantastic too. I'm hoping to have maybe a career mode video out at 5 or 6 PM tonight. Have to wait and see. Don't yet have one recorded, so it depends how quickly I can get that turned around. But look out for it if it does get uploaded. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.